Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Arindam Mukherjee.
Thank you so much. Between Mr. Kumar's pre-closure on lunch and actual lunch, I'm standing there. Thank you very much for all coming by. And as before talking to all of you, I was just trying to understand the profile of the audience. I primarily see that there's quite a bit of business mix in this conversation. And I'm fresh coming from Kochi after the Gartner Summit. So there's a lot of IT and IT trends which is kind of filling on me. What I'll try to give you in just 15 minutes, just stay put, 15 minutes, an abstraction of your conversation within the organization from the standpoint of what is IT happening with the cloudification in the industry. All right, so before I get you a good friends, very, very high level and very quickly what you do. We're actually an Indian global multinational company on the managed services, having presence in 26 countries, as you can see, across Middle East and Africa, Southeast Asia, Korea, Latin America, Canada. And what you do is local in-country hosting of our public cloud services. We do a certified global subject matter experts. We do our service delivery from Hyderabad. And we actually are present in 52 locations. In terms of when you talk to your IT counterparts, basically you will see that a lot of conversations are today happening about IT moving out of the on-premises to going to the different hyperscaler clouds, right? We play a significant and catalyst role in this country and in all the countries that I mentioned, playing the catalyst role in all of the 5 domains that you can see here. I'll just take a minute to pause and give you a sense about that. When I say sovereign and industry cloud, we actually run our community cloud platform, which does most of the hyperscaler functionalities that you can think of. And this is what we run on automation driven. So whether you want to do auto scale, whether you want to run Kubernetes cluster, everything that happens here. We're the largest SAP premier partner. Okay, I'm sure that the manufacturing companies here would be knowing what is SAP all about. So you are the largest SAP premier partner, and actually we are OEM to them in their HANA Enterprise Cloud and RISE with SAP. So that is a hotbed. The third is the vertical specific offering. To give you a sense, ladies and gentlemen, that when the small finance bank and the payment banks came in 2015, 2016, more than 50% of those banks are running on Cloud 4C infrastructure in the form of our either private cloud offering or the public cloud offering. So what we have done, we have actually worked with the regulators to build a compliance checklist and build certain specific customized offering along with Infosys, Edgeverb, Intellect Design, FIS, a few of the names to kind of reckon with. And everything that I'm talking about is at a global scale. I'm not talking about India. So we partner with Infosys, Edgeverb for a global scale rollout across Latin America, across Middle East and Africa, etc. Vertical specific offering I just spoke about. Global footprint I also spoke about, and single SLA at the application layer. I'll kind of not go beyond this, but just to give you an understanding that when you go back and talk to any of your IT leadership or the finance leadership, this is the expertise that we built on the table. Let me move. Now, this is the core part of it, and this is one of the code that I've seen, I think about 10 years ago, that the future is already arrived, but it is not evenly distributed. And there's a good meaning around that because this is so true valid in today's life cycle of technology changes. So Gartner is predicting that we are at the peak of the hype cycle. When you are at the peak of the hype cycle, what happens that you eventually look at the trough. Peak of the hype cycle around the generative AI, around the adaptive AI, etc. And thereafter comes the trough of realization that what actually it can mean for us to do. I'll give you some examples of my customer conversations, and it's very relevant for all of you. Let's say that before I went to the cloud, security was a big concern, right? What happens? I give my IT infrastructure estate to you folks, but more and more they started using cloud. They realized that security in the cloud is of a very different denomination than what it used to be inside the cloud. As an example, people are very watchdog of what infrastructure they use on premises, right? And whether it's an XYZ brand, I'm very scaled with my IT resources. The moment you went to the cloud, there's a serendipity. You realize that actually in cloud, infrastructure is on the tap. It is infinite. You don't have to worry. Likewise, there are multiple traditional truths that you go through. That makes me believe that the future, what in our time when we have been studying, when we've been starting our career, is like a future is being forecasted, future is being built. According to me, it's already arrived, but it's just not evenly distributed. And to my mind, conferences of this such is where the distribution to accumulation happens, where a single thought process do emerge out of it. Let me straight away dive into, I borrowed this from Gartner, but I'll give you a very profound sense so that you understand non-IT, what it really means. Let me talk on the left-hand side, protect your investments. So there are three things that Gartner is talking about, and I'll tell you why I'm talking about Gartner as an anchor for you to know what is Cloudforce doing. So they are talking about three things. In any organization, you got to protect your investments. There is a rise of the builders. And what is the builders economy is something I'll talk in a second. And in the middle of this chasm, how do you deliver the value? Okay? And what is the role that we're playing as a Cloudforce? I'll talk about it. Protect your investment. The most of the AI stuff, that generative AI that I spoke about. To give an example, we are working with an automotive company in the country. This is in India. They're trying to build a next generation of gearbox. And traditional sourcing mechanism, traditional research mechanism, you infuse a lot of AI, share everything that has been happening for the last 7, 8, 9 years. Would give you an X output. But we started working with a hyperscaler in running the large language model, whereby the custom code that we are trying to write with them would give them an access to a very, very purified search of a certain material that they would be requiring to produce that gearbox, which would give some 98% efficiency in the trucks that they're making. Just one example. Another example outside the country with a healthcare provider in Canada. So they are one of the largest healthcare provider in Canada. And these are all boardroom conversation, by the way. They are having some 300 plus doctors on their payroll. So whenever there is a, any health checkup, any doctor consultation happens, they generally try to struggle to find out that what is the way to find out the best doctor and then get them on the call. So what we are trying to work with them is to get the very standard data and put it into a form of a resume, and that goes into a model that we built along with one of the hyperscaler platform provider. And this is like a real generative AI. What happens is that from the voice, it understands what the capability of the physician that you need. It goes to the query and it generates a profile of a person, of a doctor, who is near match to that. And then it connects the call, right? So you can pretty much understand whether it's a healthcare or it's a bare-bone automotive industry, the generative AI is something which is going through the roof. Along with that comes the security. So all of you use one food services company when you go to inside the aircraft. So this is one of the company, I cannot name it because of the NDA. In Singapore, we worked in terms of building a threat intelligence of a very different kind. They're using Microsoft Azure Sentinel for real-time threat monitoring. And we infused a Google Mandiant along with that. And guess the level of sophistication that have been there, right? So what happens is that in typical cloud SIEM, wherever the threats are coming, you're basically trying to assess and assimilate what's going on. With this new tool of Mandiant, we are trying to infuse an AI ops on that. At a global scale, it is trying to predict that if a threat has happened in Morocco, how real-time in a millisecond I can infuse that command into the Sentinel so that it protects the zero-day attack. Happening all inside the cloud, right? So this is one. Second thing is the rise of the builders. This is one of the conversation with a chief financial officer is doing, that when blockchain came or when metaverse came, right? Board members didn't know how to play around with that. But generative AI, almost everyone knows how to play about it, how to fine-tune the query. The rise of the builders, it starts from the top and goes right down to the DevOps community. So today, for example, just before this conference, I was on a Teams call. Trust me, I was in a nearby hotel, I was on a Teams call, and my flight got delayed, and I was delayed by 15 minutes. I didn't have to query anyone what got discussed there. I invoked an autopilot command and asked it to search and give me a summary of what happened in 15 minutes last. It just produced that for me. If there are 15 slides there for me, just giving a very bare minimum example, and I ask it to make a one-pager summary, it actually produces through large language models. These are the everyday usage. If you map it to the healthcare example I gave, or the gearbox example I gave, these are large language models, build a community which is working at massive scale across the organization. So one of the key themes I would just to leave with you is that when you go back to your IT stakeholders, or if there are IT stakeholders here, AI should be a part of your daily agenda. Escaping that in today's time is not a possibility. You go to all of these hyperscaler, all of these companies, they will all talk about multiple tools that they have built, but what we bring onto the table is making a real sense out of the mess. And remember, I talked about Gartner's hype cycle. We're at the peak of the hype cycle. So everyone will promise that this is the best tool that you can use. But how many large language models can exist? I used to work for a company, a large database company before that. They used to be partnering with a company called Cohere, C-O-H-E-R-E. They call it this OG. Microsoft, if you go, they will say OpenAI, ChatGPT. And likewise, there are 15 different tools which are there. Compared to your particular environment, which tool, which model is going to work is something which is of a tremendous significance. And third is the delivering the value, which is like connecting the automated workforce. Almost all of the applications, trust me, almost all of the applications are being rewritten with infused AI for the last 10 years. Nothing new. That is BAU, business as usual. But they're getting modernized with an idea of how it can harness the power of large language models that is going to be beckoning on us. So the theme of this is that as you are trying to protect your investment vendor, ISV solution provider, to build a certain part of solution of your problem, right? That is possible to be deployed on premises. That is possible to be deployed on a hyperscaler of choice. It could be deployed by XYZ partner. But that is where the game starts, because in today's world, which we call a multi-cloud world, basically means that depending on my IT infrastructure, preferity, usability, efficacy, I get to choose and play with each other, and they have to be simultaneously, seamlessly working. That is where we come in. We run something, as you can see there, SHOP, right on the top, the wrapper, that is called Self-Healing Operative Platform. This is a custom-coded, managed services platform, which basically tries to get the signal of your infrastructure and deployments right up to the application right there, down to the middle layer. And the way we have done it, we have created 23 Center of Excellences, COEs, which basically goes to go different parts of IT infrastructure. It could be hardware, it could be databases, it could be operating system, it could be Azure, AWS, GCP, OCI, etc., etc. In a nutshell, when you are building the application or you are giving it to someone to build, your workforce, as per the Gartner's previous slide that I spoke about, has to be more generative AI ready. That's where we come in DevOps, okay, SecOps, security operations, and all of these IT stuff together. What the credentials we build onto the table, because many people can actually come and claim this, right? I spent a couple of years with Microsoft before this, and I know that there are hundreds of partners who can claim that. What we come and bring onto the table, just as a summary, is a company which is hyperscaler agnostic, who runs their own public cloud, #1 partner of SAP globally, and delivers the global security and cloud ops right here from India. So I hope I'm able to make a sense, because this is just a 15 minutes conversation around the possibilities of IT. And I wanted to pause to come back to the slide that I put it up earlier, that I truly believe that the future is arrived here, but it's just not evenly distributed. And conferences of such actually lets you to pause, to kind of think through that what together in the corners of the conversations, what those cross-pollination happens. I'm around, and I'll be on a panel discussion with AWS and a couple of other people in the afternoon. Please feel free to interact, and I'll be more than happy to share a lot of best practices around that. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mukherjee.